And now we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Partner Training here at WebMaker. I am joined today again by the fantastic Doug Belshaw and Lucy Harris. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, Lucy, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm the campaign assistant on Maker Party this year. So I'm going to be able to answer all of your Maker Party questions, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that today.
Nice.
And when I can press the button to unmute, I'm Doug Belshaw. I'm the Web Literacy Lead. And if you ask me hard questions, I won't be able to answer them. But if you ask me easy questions, I will. So there we are.
And I'm Laura Hilliger. I am the Training and Curriculum Lead, and I can answer a lot of different types of questions, so let's just kind of see what happens. If you're looking at the Google Plus event page, we've turned on a question and answer app, and basically what that means is when you type in a question, it pops up in our screen, so we can answer your questions, and this session really runs a lot better if you actually ask questions, because otherwise we end up just kind of chatting with each other and showing some stuff, and there's so many different things that we could show you in the Mozilla universe. It really is better if you kind of guide us a little bit and help us know what it is that you're sort of wondering about in terms of Maker Party or the WebMaker tools or web literacy and all of the other things that we're kind of working on. So we are all on the Teach the Web team, and what we do on the Teach the Web team is we help other people teach the web, and we do that by trying to help you find each other, trying to help you learn the tools that you need, learning a little bit about the learning methodologies that we care about in the 21st century learning. And over at WebMaker Training, I was actually going to share my screen so that you guys can see. Let's see here. All right. Doug, Lucy, am I sharing correctly? It's hard on a laptop. Are you nodding? Or not? Okay, you're nodding. Great. So over at WebMaker, all of the stuff that we're covering today is kind of brought together, curated together in these handy modules that are sort of the baseline of what we do here at WebMaker. So the Exploring module is really about some of the learning methodologies that we care about. The first one is Making is Learning, and this is sort of the idea that when somebody is making something and doing something and producing something, they're also learning valuable skills in how to do that and how to think about that. At WebMaker, we really care about connected learning, and if you go to training.webmakerprototypes.org, you'll see the connected learning graphic there, and if you click on it, you'll actually go to the Connected Learning Alliance, where this graphic is interactive, and it sort of explains what these different learning principles and design principles are. But basically, connected learning is learning for the 21st century. It's the idea that if we are helping learners learn something that is around their own interests and using that Making is Learning methodology, and also working together, that their learning is sort of up-leveled and it is more effective. Doug, do you want to say anything about some of the other learning methodologies that we use at WebMaker?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned connected learning, which is a really nice kind of way of approaching things to do on the web. Another thing which I'd mention is also, if you want to dive deeper into that, and I really would start there, but there's other learning theories that you might want to explore, over and above the ones that you might have come across either when you were at school or university and stuff. Things like connectivism, which talks about learners as nodes on a network. Obviously, there's like constructivism and that kind of stuff. But I think connected learning, if you're doing this with a group of people, if you're explaining what it is that we're doing here with Maker Parties, then I think because there's that really useful interactive graphic that Laura's showing now, I think that's probably the best place to start, because it makes sense and it connects all of the different things that we're trying to do here together. It talks about design and learning, it talks about the academic part of it, it talks about the networks, it talks about learning through making, all that kind of stuff. So I would start there, and if people want to do a deeper dive, then like Laura shared, on the WebMaker training page. There's lots of other things to dive into as well.
Thanks, Doug. I mean, the last sort of piece that I would mention that's really important to us with MakerParty and actually everything that we do at Mozilla is this idea of the open web. We really care about helping people understand what that is. And again, if you go to training, you can get into that topic more deeply. But this is something that you really are going to be living every day, especially at MakerParty. Because what we do with MakerParty is really sort of push forward this idea of openness and what does that mean and how do we work together in a way that is open and inclusive and collaborative. And so, yeah, so definitely go to training and read some of that stuff, and then you can also make some things to sort of get into the WebMaker tools. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now so that I can actually, or I'm going to try to stop the screen sharing and fail at it. There we go. Hi. I wanted to just check in and see if we had any questions. No questions yet. Like I said, please do ask questions along the way. You can just post them on the page. The next thing that we kind of wanted to talk about in terms of the learning methodologies is the work that underpins all of WebMaker, the Web Literacy Map. And as Doug is here, maybe Doug wants to share his screen, and I will stop talking. Doug, could you tell us about the Web Literacy Map? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, just it's my machine's being a bit slow today, even though it's brand new, which is bizarre. So I'm going to share my screen, if I can press that button. Oh my goodness, this is being slow today. I do apologize. Press that, desktop, start screen share. There we go, right. So you've already seen, I think, the WebMaker website, which has had a recent refresh. So when you go to webmaker.org, you'll see new things. You'll see the MakerParty information, all that kind of stuff. But the thing which is really new and really interesting is if you click on resources, you'll see a whole new section built on something called the Web Literacy Map. So the Web Literacy Map is kind of a map of the territory of web literacy. So if you want to get better at reading, writing, and participating on the web, then this is the kind of stuff that you need to do. There's 3 columns, there's 3 strands: exploring, building, and connecting. And there's 5 competencies within each strand. So you can see, you know, in exploring there's navigation, in building there's things like remixing, and connecting there's privacy and open practices. So I'm just going to click on one of these. I think today I'm going to click on remixing. And this page has lots of information about the remixing competency. On the right-hand side here, you can see the skills which underpin this particular competency. There's different numbers of skills for different competencies. It gives you an overview of it. Here you can log in to submit a resource which is linked to this particular competency. And then underneath there's 3 different sections. There's Discover, Make, and Teach. The Discover section is if you're absolutely new to this particular competency, you can find out what it's all about. So you can find out if you've never heard of what really remixing is and what it's all about and the culture around it. I'm really happy that they put the Grey album in here from DJ Danger Mouse. If you've never heard that album, it is one of my all-time favorites. It's a mashup of Jay-Z and the Beatles, Jay-Z's Black Album and the Beatles' White Album. It's awesome. Anyway, the remix competency has a Discover section, then a Make section. So the Make section is all about stuff that you can make which is related to this competency. So at your MakerParty, you might be interested in choosing 1 or 2 or 3 competencies and diving into that Make section and starting to do things related to those things that you've chosen. And then the Teach bit has teaching kits, teaching resources, which allow you to teach other people how to make the web and how to do things related to that competency. And then at the bottom, it's got related competencies to the one that you're on there. And there's this page for every single competency, all 15 of them. So if you choose privacy, there's a page for that, etc., and so on. So if you're running a MakerParty, I really would encourage you to have a look at this because you might want a particular focus for it, or you might be able to retrospectively fit in those competencies to what it is that you're doing.
I feel like, you know, I feel like the resources section is actually full of amazing things. And on webmaker.org, you can also go to webmaker.org/search and search for keywords or title names and all kinds of stuff. There's just tons of stuff there that people have made. And Doug was saying, like, this is great stuff to run a maker party, but I feel like we kind of skipped over what is a maker party from a basic level. So I'm going to toss it to Lucy. Lucy, what's a maker party?
Great question. I was actually thinking that I might try and share my screen to illustrate. Let's see. This is my first screen share attempt. I don't know how you get infinite regress, so.
See myself.
Did that work? Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yep, we gotcha.
Awesome. So a maker party is Mozilla's global campaign to teach the web. What it really is between July 15th to September 15th, as well as on either side, we really try and encourage people to throw events to teach the web. And there's lots of different types of events you can throw, and it's actually very open. And so you can think about what kind of things you want to teach, and the resource section that Doug just showed is so great to inspire you to figure out what kind of things you might want to teach at your events. And you can do any size, so you can just have 2 people together in a kitchen doing some code or just like looking at some of the WebMaker tools, or you can have 50 or 100 people together with different stations doing different activities. So here's some pictures from last year's history, and this is all at party.webmaker.org, and I'm going to drop this with all the other links in on the Google Plus page, so you can find all these links afterwards. You don't have to be writing them down. So you can look at all the pictures. And we also, if you go to Flickr and look up Maker Party, you can see images from all sorts of Maker Parties from all around the world, and it's a really great way to get a sense of the kind of events that you can throw. Also, we've got some resources. We're just updating this resource page here, but you can look at guides. Like this is how to host a hack jam, and it takes you through really step by step how to host an activity for different groups of people. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, I think I think that the important thing to remember about Maker Party is that you can really do the thing that your community wants to do. We have tons of great examples from different sizes of Maker Parties, everything from the Mimosa Maker Party where I think it was Michelle got a few of her friends together, and on a Sunday morning they got champagne and orange juice, and then they sat around and they hacked on the web. So you can do something like that, but you can also do something where you are focusing on a specific type of learner. For example, we have a lot of organizations that try to teach digital literacy and media skills to teenagers through filmmaking or through neighborhood initiatives. And those types of organizations like to organize a bigger event like 30, 40, 70 people that brings teenagers together for an entire afternoon, and they do something. They make media, and then they post it on the web. And then we have really big marquee maker parties where there are several hundred people and a lot of different organizations collaborating together in order to create a sort of learning buffet. So really, your imagination can run wild, and we have tons of examples, and we're happy to point people towards different things that people have done. All you have to do is reach out and ask, or just take a look at some of the history of Maker Party. If you go to party.webmaker.org, there's plenty of documentation from what was happening last year. And yay, we got a question, which I'm excited about because otherwise you just kind of keep talking. So the question is, what are the best ways that you have seen to promote a maker party? So that's actually a great question. I think that one of the most important things that you can do to promote your maker party is to start promoting really, really early. And by promoting early, I mean as soon as you know you're going to throw a maker party, let us know, let the world know, tweet it out, say, we're going to do a maker party, this is what we're thinking about. Plan your maker party in the open, give regular updates about what you're working on and what you're doing. Put your event into the event system. It's events.webmaker.org. This is actually really, really helpful because people are going to be going to the event system to find maker parties in their area. So if your event is in there and there are people in your area, then they'll be able to find your party really easily. And then, of course, when you're doing promotion, if you include a blog post that other people can forward and post to, I mean, it's really all about putting your maker party out into the open so that the sort of viral effect can take hold. The other really cool thing is that, you know, if you have a really original, crazy idea for a maker party, it's actually really easy to spread those kind of ideas because people are like, wow, that's really creative. So for example, last year we had a community of people in Romania. They decided to do a 48-hour maker party. And they literally got 15, 20 people together, technologists, educators, people who wanted to teach each other web skills, and they sat around for 48 hours just building and hacking and collaborating and making and eating a ton of pizza. And it was just really interesting, and it sort of went viral because, you know, it was a group of people who were committing for 48 hours to hang out together, hacking on the web. And so that particular maker party was completely grassroots. It was really just a group of people that got together to hack, and I mean, we're still talking about it. So I think that creativity is really helpful in promotion as well. But I think the main thing is really to just be loud. Be loud about your maker party from the get-go. Doug, Lucy, do you think that was good advice?
Yeah, that was awesome advice. And if I was going to add anything, I would just say go online as well as offline. So Doug mentioned this in one of our earlier meetings, but to create a hashtag just for your event and start using it early and share that around, but also make posters. I find something that's really helpful is go to your audience. If you know you're going to target teens or young kids, go to the schools, bring a poster, go to the teachers, say, we're doing this event, would you bring your kids? And also, because I know there's another question, starts to get into that, but if you go to where your audience is, so if you really want to do a maker party with kids, and you go to a school and say, can I throw a maker party in your gym? Not only do you automatically get a big audience, then you can encourage other people to come out, but you also get a venue.
The other thing to remember, because I see a lot of people like disappointed when, you know, 100 people sign up for their event and only 20 people show up. Like, that is quite usual. You know, like when you have free events, people just go, oh, free event, I'm just going to sign up and it's in a month. There's things you can do to get around that. So one thing you can do is you can keep on reminding people that this is coming, and through social media you can get people's email address, all that kind of stuff, and you can ask them specifically to bring things. Another thing is, when they sign up, if you get their name and you address them by name in emails, you know, you can do this via Eventbrite, via Mozilla's platform, by very, very like wide range of things. If you like make things personal, if you ask them to bring stuff, if you know, keep reminding them about stuff, if you build the excitement, then they're much more likely to actually show up. If you're really concerned about the fact that you've got sponsors perhaps, or you're investing a lot of money, then what I've seen some people do, not necessarily for Maker Party, but do like a refundable deposit, or have some way in which like they need to kind of show up to get something back, like they get something free, or a sponsor gives them something, or there's free food, or something which is going to hook them in to be able to turn up. That's a good way of doing things. We've got another question, Laura, about like Maker Party venues.
Yeah, so Martin is asking, do you have a minimum recommended specifications for a Maker Party venue? Hi, Martin. So actually, we have seen maker parties all over the place. Last year, we saw maker parties that were in internet cafes in the middle of Bangladesh. We saw maker parties that were in the park with no Wi-Fi at all, just people hanging out with laptops and making things offline and teaching each other skills offline. And then we saw maker parties in gigantic organizations like the Museum of Natural History in New York City. So there's really no minimum specification. What I like to tell people is to find a venue where it's kind of flexible, like you can move chairs around. I try to tell people not to get venues where there's a bunch of tables bolted to the floor and stuff like that, because creativity is something that needs flexibility, and as people are sort of making and learning, they're going to want to move things around. So I think my minimum specification is a place where I can hack the space, and whatever that looks like. And then, I mean, the other thing is, like, we have a lot of both online and offline maker parties, so I think that it's kind of important to know what you want to do at your maker party. If you're wanting to build something that is immediately visible in the internet, or if you want to have people tweeting or posting pictures the entire time, or uploading or downloading videos, then you definitely want to have a look at the tech specifications and whether or not Wi-Fi is going to hold out, and get somebody to take a look at what your Wi-Fi setup is. I know we have some checklists for what you need to look out for in terms of technology. I'll have to dig it up because I don't know where it is, but I will find it and I will post it to the Google Plus page, so that you guys have access to a checklist of stuff to think about in terms of technology. And also, I know there is a How to Find Your Perfect Venue resource, so I'll dig that up as well. We have another question. Oh, go ahead, Doug.
I think just on that, as I've said multiple times before, is have a backup plan. Like, you don't need. It's almost like a risk assessment kind of thing. You don't need to have done all of the paperwork. You just need to know what it is that you're going to do. So, somebody has a medical health issue, like someone has a fit, or someone like gets injured, or whatever it is. Like, what do you need to do? Like, you want to keep on doing the maker party whilst that person gets the attention. What happens if the Wi-Fi goes down? What happens if you're expecting a bunch of 15-year-olds to come along and they're all 7? Like, how do you deal with those curveballs? You don't need to have necessarily written those things down. You just need to have thought through potentially all of the different things that could go wrong, so that when one of those things goes wrong, because, hey, it's a live event, something's going to go wrong, you can kind of deal with it and then move on.
So I have another question here. What sort of things would you suggest running a maker party when you have a mixed skill group? That's actually that's a really great question. So one of the things that I really like about running maker parties when you have different skill sets is that you can really encourage peer-to-peer learning. So putting those different skill sets together, helping people actually teach each other, so that you are really just facilitating an experience in which that learning can occur. It's really, truly amazing to see how people respond to each other when they're teaching and learning together. So for example, when you see that somebody knows something and they're teaching it to their peer, when that peer has learned it, the person doing the teaching is also very, very surprised and sort of empowered by their own ability to teach. So I actually really like mixed skill groups. And I think that the way that you actually have to design that experience is to have enough different kinds of activities that are really participatory, so that people can work together. I love the questions. Keep them coming. This is a great way to actually do this session. So the next question, what limitations should we be aware of when...
Just before you go on to that, Lucy ran a maker party, I think, about 10 days ago, was it? Where you did have mixed ability, kind of a big mixed ability audience. How did that go?
Yeah, I was actually going to add that. It went really well, and what we did is we used stations. We had a huge variation in skills because we had grade 1s and then we had grade 8s. And if you hang around kids, you know that that is a really big difference in skills and interests and everything. And we didn't even have that many people. I think a lot of people hear stations and they think, oh, you have to have 50 people to make stations worthwhile. But a station could be 2 laptops set up doing like website hacking, and then 2 laptops set up doing like Erase All Kittens, which is like a little video game that you do on the computer, and it's really basic HTML skills. You're trying to like erase all the cats. It's really cute and it's great for beginners. But then if someone's not interested, they can meander over to the next station, which is a little more sophisticated, where they're looking at HTML and they're looking at how to use it and doing some hacking to websites and things like that. So it doesn't take much to set up stations, and it's super effective if you have lots of different skill levels. So I would highly recommend that. And it can be really small, so don't be scared off. But it sounds like it's for a lot of people, but it works well. We only had, I think, 15 or 20 people there, and we managed to have 4 stations. Gave people the flexibility to go to where they felt comfortable.
Cool. Thanks, guys. So the next question I was about to read was, what limitations should we be aware of when hosting a maker party? For example, with young people, necessary CRB checks. I actually don't know what a CRB check is. Is that bad? Can somebody tell me? Doug, do you happen to know?
Yes, they're not called CRB checks anymore. They're called DW some whatever. Basically, it used to be called the Criminal Records Bureau check, basically to make sure that you're not a pedophile. There's it's a background check. So that is something which is kind of over and above what it is that you're doing with, from like a Mozilla point of view. That's just a working with kids thing. And every country and every locality has different things with that. So one thing you can do is, number one, you could ask the parents to stay with them. Then you don't need any clearance. Another thing is to get those kinds of checks. A third one is to get parents to sign a form, because then you're in loco parentis, so you can do whatever you want, pretty much within reason, obviously. So it's one of those things which I just ask around other people who've done those kinds of events before, and if you don't know anybody who's run an event with youth in your local area, ask the venue or ask the webmaker list.
Yeah. I think that's good advice, is to reach out to people and learn about how it is in your local area. I know that where I'm from, for example, if parents bring their children free willing to an event, then they're kind of giving that responsibility on themselves. They're taking it upon themselves to actually be responsible for checking who's running the event, who's responsible here, and that kind of thing. So with maker parties, if you're working with other people together, you should find out what exactly the laws are in your local community, and particularly asking the venue. So if you're running a maker party in, for example, a library, that kind of thing might be taken care of for you. Good question, though.
There's also, it's the same thing with risk assessments. Like, you need to ask the venue what it is that you need to do in advance, so you're not rushing about doing that kind of thing at the last minute. So yeah, just make sure that you've crossed all the T's and dotted the I's. That's right.
We have another question. Would you suggest having a structured day, or have a room set out with different activities which people can choose to go to whenever they want for as long as they want? So it's kind of up to you. Those are two actually very different kinds of events, and both of them can be very, very fun. So for example, with a structured day, if you have an idea for something that you want to get done. If you, for example, you want to make a documentary that's interactive about your neighborhood, you can structure the day so that it feels very much like different groups are doing different things at different times in order to an ultimate goal. Whereas the second part of the question, people choosing to do kind of whatever they want, that might not have one cohesive goal. So it's really kind of about what you actually want to accomplish at your maker party. If you want a specific type of make to come out of it, then you might think about having a more structured day. Whereas if you really want people to just experience a lot of different types of things that maybe don't relate, then having an event where people can kind of pick and choose different stations might be better. But then you can also do a hybrid of those two things. So really, it just depends on how you design your event. You can make anything work. Making and learning is something that really just requires people feeling like that's what they're allowed to do, to sort of explore everything that's there on offer. Seems like Doug has something he wants to say. Go for it.
As ever. So, the thing to remember is that it's the links between activities, which people often forget to plan. So planning activities is all well and good, but you need to think about how people are going to like flow between them, if there's a logical progression, all that kind of stuff. So there's two things I mean, this is the teacher in me kind of coming out. Like, I really would suggest two things. Firstly, there will be stragglers. There will be people who arrive late, just because that's some people's personality. They arrive late for stuff, and there's unforeseen circumstances. So you might want to start your event like 5, 10, 15 minutes after the start time, which means there's going to be some people, the super keen, eager beavers, hanging around. So what are they going to do? Like, is there something which they can be doing? I think in America they call this like bell time or bell activities or whatever. Like, what can they be doing just to kind of get started? The next thing is, you need some kind of synchronous time. You need something where everyone's on the same page. Now, that can be two things. That can be setting things up so that people have a minimum baseline amount of knowledge and skill. So, like, here's how to use X-ray goggles, or even just enthusing people and getting them excited about the day. And then I think the other thing it's really important to do in a synchronous kind of everybody looking at the same time, doing the same thing approach is celebrating people's work. So, you know, even just copying and pasting links to the stuff that people have done into an Etherpad or a Google Doc or something like that, or just having a Twitter stream or whatever, and then at the end of the day, like, clicking through them and getting people to, like, you know, applaud and like whoop when people have done some really awesome stuff makes everyone go away thinking that the event has been a success, which it will have been, and also just means that you've got defined times on which to kind of have the tent pegs on which to hang everything else. I think that's a really important thing to do.
Thanks, Doug. I just noticed a comment coming by where Martin from the NCS is letting the person that asked the question about the CRB and the requirements for getting that checked know that NCS can help them with that requirement, which is pretty awesome. So again, very, very cool use of commenting in live world. Let's see, we had another question here. How do you ultimately know if your maker party is a success? Did you have fun? Did other people have fun? Did you make something? Did you learn something? Did other people make something? Did other people learn something? Success. I mean, it's really about bringing people together to share in a collaborative experience where people are making and learning. That's all it is, and that can be, again, that can be as small as one person showing somebody something on the web to actually, you know, throwing a gigantic event. Lucy, do you have any ideas or tips about what makes a maker party a success?
I think you covered most of them there right at the beginning, but definitely the goal of these things is to teach the web. So did somebody learn anything? Like, did someone get a better understanding of how to use the web? Did they start feeling more comfortable with the idea of remixing? Did they get a better understanding of technology? Anything like that, I think, makes your event a big success. I know that at the end of an event, it's hard as the organizer to feel like it's a success, especially if you got fewer people than you expected. And a great way to deal with that is if you talk to people at the event about sharing afterwards. You ask them to give feedback to you via email, via a form, or just ask them to share what they made on Twitter, share their pictures on Flickr, share their pictures on Facebook, so that when you go home after the event, you're wondering, like, oh, do you think people had a good time? Then when you go on the internet, you can see people are sharing it, and they'll say, oh, I had a really great time at this event on Twitter. When people share afterwards, not only does it make you feel better about knowing that your event went well, but also other people can see that your event was exciting, and it helps for the next time you throw an event.
I actually think that's...
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that that I wanted to sort of underline Lucy's point about sharing out what you've done with the rest of the world and sort of talking about it. I think that you know, part of the feeling of success really comes from reflecting on what you've done and also understanding that what you've done is part of a global campaign to teach the web, which is pretty amazing. So I think that sharing what you've done will also help other people find it, but then it also, like, if everybody is sharing what they're doing and making and learning and how their maker party was, and even the problems, and just taking time to think about those kinds of things and put them into an online space, we can all learn from each other, and we can all learn. If I throw a maker party and I feel like looking at Lucy's share out from her maker party, I'm like, man, that looks like way more fun or something, then I can do better next time. And if yours was really great, then you can actually help somebody else make theirs really great. So I think that doing all of this in an open way and sharing and tweeting or posting in open places, open networks, blogging, talking about your maker party online is really important. Doug, what did you want to say?
I was just going to add in, sometimes you have a tough audience. Like, these people have voluntarily come to an event, but they're sitting there like, is this thing for me? Or their parents have dragged them along, or whatever. What it's like. Sometimes you're in a room and you feel like it's going to be quite a tough audience. So what my suggestion would be there is that there's little things you can do so that they know the event has been a success and they have learned something. And so what I would suggest that you do is that you kind of like crowdsource, and by what I mean by that is you get lots of people's ideas about what do you want to get out of today? Like, why have you turned up here? What is it? If you go away today, how do you know that you've been successful? And then you just literally write all those things down, or you're asking the questions while someone else is typing them down or writing them down or whatever. And then at the end of it, you revisit those things and you say like, oh, this guy over here, did you manage to learn a bit of HTML today? Like, this person over here, do you know what's meant by hacking now? Like, do all those kinds of things, and naturally those people will have a light bulb moment, like, over the last couple of hours I've learned some new stuff, and they'll go away happy, much more likely to then go and learn more things. That doesn't happen very often, but just be prepared when it does.
I actually think that was answering the question, how would you encourage young people who might not otherwise be interested in computing, that the event is also inclusive for them. So I actually think that Doug just answered that, but just to sort of reiterate, you really have to put the learning in each person's hands. So they're there for a reason, and whatever that reason is, they can get something out of a maker party. Maker parties are supposed to be fun. So if they're not interested in computing, what are they interested in? And try to make the maker party include that thing, whatever that thing is. So if they're interested in graffiti art, how can you bring graffiti art and the web together in a way that's interesting for them? So what is it about graffiti that they like, and how can they use that thing that they're interested in to actually learn 21st century skills? So the activity that Doug mentioned about finding out why people are there and finding out what it is that they that they expect to get out of the event. We have a couple of different sort of icebreaker activities at webmaker.org. So if you go to webmaker.org and you search for icebreakers, there are different ways to kind of get that information out in a fun and interactive way. And it'll just help people kind of realize that despite the fact that we might be talking about teaching and learning, or we say we're celebrating teaching and learning, or that you call it a workshop or a training event, or whatever sort of preconceived notions people have about education or learning, Maker Party is a place to sort of shift those notions and help people understand that learning can be fun, and that making is fun, and that making and life go hand in hand together.
There's also, sorry, Lucy, you go ahead.
I was just going to really quickly share an anecdote that I thought really well highlighted what Laura was saying, which is going to your audience and figuring out what they're interested in. At the last Maker Party I was involved at, we had a lot of young girls, and so I taught them how to hack the robot dance. So we taught them the robot dance, it's 5 steps, and then we took turns going around, and each girl would change the move to make it her own. And it was building up the concept of hacking, that you can take something that's out there and you can remix it to make it your own, and you come out with something completely new. But all young girls, at least in North America, are obsessed with Frozen, and so we had the Frozen songs playing in the background while they presented their new dances, and they were absolutely thrilled. These are not girls who would have come in saying, I want to learn something technical, but we were able to incorporate a technical concept in a fun way and then adding the Frozen soundtrack, and they were head over heels. They were doing that dance for weeks and telling everyone they went to a maker party to learn it. So that was really great.
So on Frozen in particular, a really nice way to get people interested is if you search on YouTube, there's like a screaming goat, which gets inserted into lots of songs, including Taylor Swift. And so there's the version of Frozen, like the Let It Be song, with a screaming goat in, which is basically remixing, yeah? So you can get kids remixing using Popcorn Maker. So that's really interesting. I think there's little things you can say to people to make them realize that it's a safe space for failure. Because a lot of people, even if they're not in school anymore, their only experience of a learning environment is school, where often the stakes are high and failure isn't exactly tolerated. So if you say things like, today is about choosing your own adventure, today's about just defining what success is like for you, like saying things like that might sound a bit corny or cheesy or whatever, and you can even script these things and know when you're going to wheel these things out, but saying things like that makes people realize that this isn't like what I've done before. This is something where I can try it. If it doesn't work, I can try something else. Like, this is all about my own learning rather than having to, fit in with someone else's curriculum.
Actually, one of my favorite events that I ever did was about really highlighting the idea that failure is not bad, and that we get to define our own success by actually running an event where the entire point was to come up with the stupidest, most ridiculous project that you possibly could. Like, the idea was, we just wanted to do something, so we're basically throwing a maker party where failure was really encouraged, and we were trying to get people to do remixes and build stuff on the web that was just designed to make people raise their eyebrows and why, what is the point? And then I don't know, a couple of weeks ago I was talking to one of the AppMaker folks. So AppMaker is a new webmaker tool that's to help people build mobile apps without having technical expertise, and it's pretty cool. It's at apps.webmaker.org. And I was saying that it would be pretty cool to do a maker party where you just basically try to come up with useless apps. Like, how could you design a mobile app that's just useless? So I think that encouraging failure can also be really fun. And people, humor is a great way to bring people into learning and into your space. So. We have a couple more questions. So Blake is asking, have you seen maker parties hosted along with and part of other events, for example, a convention or LAN party? And if so, does this work well? So actually, yes. We've done maker parties as parts of really big events, really conventions. For example, Campus Party it's like a gigantic convention where there are a bunch of different stands, and there's a lot of different corporations that are part of the convention, and Mozilla has designed maker parties inside of those spaces. It works really well, and in fact, as part of something that has a more structured agenda, so if you're at a conference and there's keynote speakers followed by keynote speakers followed by keynote speakers, a maker party can be a really popular and interesting way to sort of break up the monotony of a more structured conference like that. So we do that lots, and it works really well, and people really like it. So, I mean, really, a maker party fits in anywhere. It's really just about designing a space where people can actually, be free, make stuff, and sort of interact with whatever it is that you are doing at your maker party, whether that's hardware hacking with Arduino and Raspberry Pis, or building stuff on the web, programming something. I mean, maker party sort of, it runs the gambit, and it really does fit in anywhere.
We've got a few questions which I think I can take together if you don't mind, Laura.
Sure.
So
you read them, I'll click them.
So in terms of sorry, someone's banging something outside my office, so if you can hear that, I do apologize. In terms of can this be attached to a convention or an existing thing. Remember that an event like a festival or a conference or whatever it is a lot of people in a given area for a specific thing, but they also have free time. That's why you have fringe events. So just because your maker party is rejected or doesn't seem to fit in with whatever reason people are ostensibly there for, there's no reason why you can't just have like a pop-up event in the evening or at a time when they're going to be free. George Webster's asked about, like people are always excited to attend these events and leave full of passion, but then usually you lose this interest over time. So how can we, encourage young people to keep developing these skills and keep their passion? Well, I would say two kind of opposite things here. The first thing I would say is that there are ways and means in which you can keep those people interested. So there's webmaker training. So that's like a 4-week course, if they, which they can dip in and out of, and the webmaker lists and those kinds of things. So that's for people who really want to keep on doing that kind of stuff. But the other thing is that I can remember someone saying to me once that for someone to be really kind of converted to something or really accept an idea, they have to be taught it like 6 or 7 times. So it might be that the maker party that you're running is one of those first few times that someone's exposed to an idea. It might be the first time that they're exposed to an idea. So just because they don't have an immediate strong reaction to it doesn't mean that you haven't had an impact in their life. It might be that someone else builds on the enthusiasm that you kind of generated in them when they were younger. So I would really encourage you to see it as kind of one step on a ladder towards that person having a different mindset of being a maker rather than just like an elegant consumer. And then the other one, I'll let you deal with that one, Laura.
I just wanted. Yeah, I just wanted to add to what you just said, like this idea that a maker party might be somebody's first touch experience with actually being able to build the web in a way that is theirs, or a first touch experience with learning in this way. This can change the way that people sort of look at their own learning and think, and like Doug said, if it's a first touch experience or even the third or the fourth, it's really important to understand what kind of impact that we have. So don't be discouraged if people sort of lose passion, because people they go in and out of things. And the only way that you can sort of encourage that and keep that going is to continue to show enthusiasm for the things that you care about. If you care about something and you're enthusiastic about it, people will come, and people will start to come back as well. So don't be discouraged if people leave really jazzed and then you never hear from them again, because you don't actually know how you've influenced their lives. Let's see, what other question do we have? We have about 13 minutes left, so if you have burning questions, definitely get them in. I love the fact that we basically went through almost the entire hour answering your questions. That's why we set this up, so definitely keep them coming over the next 13 minutes or so. And if you think of a question based on what we've said, or if you start looking at some of the links that we've been sharing, or as you're planning your maker party, definitely reach out. There's a webmaker list full of friendly people who are eager to answer questions and share their experiences. We're all over the web. I mean, you basically can type in a URL, and there's probably somebody from Mozilla that's in or around that website at that time. So definitely reach out. We are very contactable. Let's see. When looking for a venue with a limited budget, who do you suggest approaching, i.e. universities or libraries, and how would you suggest approaching them? What do I say, and how do I say it? So that's actually a really great question. We have lots of resources, sort of talking points, and different kinds of resources that can help you frame what Maker Party is and how to actually approach a venue with that information. I think that the best thing to do is to choose a place and reach out within the webmaker community for anybody who has experience working with those types of places. But based on your example of the universities and libraries love things that are designed for learning. They love to have special events, and universities and libraries are also highly interested in 21st century skills for their own communities. So if you're going to them and saying, I want to do this free event, it's called a Maker Party, it's part of a global campaign that, that Mozilla is shepherding, and what we want to do on the day is design a place where people can learn 21st century skills. A lot of times that's going to be enough. Libraries, universities are really interested in that kind of thing. And like I said, we have tons of resources to kind of give you legitimacy and to help you frame how you say that. I would recommend bringing some materials with you so that you can, so you can show libraries what this thing is. It's just a lot of times it's easier to show rather than tell. So I think that would be a good tip. And I'm going to look to Lucy and Doug and see if you guys have any other ideas there.
I was just going to ask Lucy where she held hers and how she went about getting that space.
We threw ours at a public school, Regent Park Public School in Toronto. Luckily, Amira, who I was working with to throw the event, had a history with some of the people there because she'd volunteered. But that's actually a great way to get in touch with people, is if you reach out to your network, say, do you know anyone at this university that I'm looking to throw an event at? And you can even just go online to the university's website, and they'll usually have a directory, and you can find some sort of admin person and get them to refer you. So search in your own networks. If you have any experience, that can help you guide where you choose to run an event. So if you do have a connection, some teachers at a school, or someone who's running a summer camp, that can help when you're thinking about throwing a Maker Party, help you figure out where you want to do it.
Yeah, I also think that another really good tip, like definitely asking your network, but also to be creative and thinking about your venue. So, for example, do you have a nearby community center? Community centers, a lot of times they don't have a lot of events, or some of them have limited funding, and they would very willingly donate their space in order to bring themselves a little bit of promotion for your event. So working together with organizations that maybe seem more marginalized in your community, or are in need of a little bit of extra pep, that's actually a great way to find really good spaces, and to also help an organization or a space in your community that maybe should be a little bit more popular.
The other thing you can do, I would suggest that try and, like Lucy said, try and make sure that you find somebody. If you haven't got a relationship with somebody who works there, or someone who represents that organization, try and find someone who has. If you can't do that, try and find them on an informal channel like social media, that kind of thing. And then if you have to write a letter, if you have to do it through a formal channel, if I was you, I would treat it almost like you're applying for a job. And when you're applying for a job, people don't want to feel like they're just one of many different places that you're trying to find a space at. They want to think like you really want that space. So use some of the language from their website. If they've got a mission statement, use some of their language back at them. As part of your mission to do X, Y, Z, wouldn't it be great if we could do this thing? Just be canny about the way that you approach people and make it easy for them to say yes.
It's such great advice, and it also sounds so subversive the way that you say it. It's great advice, Doug. I fully agree. Doing a little bit of research on the venue that you're choosing and the organizations that you're looking to collaborate with, and helping them, trying to speak the same language. That's really important when you're thinking about collaborating in this way. But I just love the way that Doug's like, oh, to be catty. Awesome. So we have another question: what kind of space is necessary for our Maker Party? And I feel like we've sort of covered that a little bit earlier when we were talking about the fact that you want to have a flexible space, and sort of talking about the different kinds of organizations. We have 6 minutes left, so I think I'll do a final call for questions. Is there something that we missed that you're dying to know?
I've got a question.
I was really pleased with all the... Yeah, go for it.
Well, on one of the other calls, because this is the third, isn't it? On one of the other calls, somebody asked if Mozilla can provide people like the people there with like Firefox OS devices. Firefox OS, for those who don't know, is it's an operating system for mobile devices, which is entirely the web, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I think I answered that question last time as to whether we can provide those devices, but I'm going to ask Laura to answer this one this time.
Wait, what? Why?
I'll answer my own question.
Whether or not we can answer your own question.
Okay. So the question is basically over and above the website promotion and the tools there, the tools in terms of making things on the web and the community and the kind of supporting materials and the kind of things that we can send out in terms of tablecloths and stickers and stuff. Is that can we provide devices? And I think our answer there is that whereas the stuff that we're putting on the web you can use free of charge, and whereas the things which we might be able to send out to you are consumables, it's difficult for us because of logistics, because of money, because of tracking, because of all those kinds of things in terms of sending high-value items out. It's difficult for those to make sure that we get those back. So unless you're going to be based in a Mozilla space, like one of the offices or one of the kind of pop-up spaces, then it's going to be difficult for us to be able to do that. What you can do is you can join one of the developer programs. We're currently testing Firefox OS on tablets, so you might just want one device, and if you're interested in making an app, you can do that. Or also, if you're interested in showing those things off and you've got a budget, or you're interested in buying these things for your own use, then Firefox OS phones are on sale all over the world. If you're in the UK, for example, they're available on eBay. If you're available, they're available in various different places throughout the world. So if that's something you're interested in doing, explore different options. You might have to buy stuff, you might need to get sponsors, you might need to sign up for a testing program, etc. But there are ways in getting those devices. We just can't send them and then get them back free of charge, unfortunately.
Thanks, Doug. Do we have any final questions?
Mine's not a question, but there's an actual question. I'll just go quickly. My last kind of statement is that if you're planning an awesome event, there's so many great questions. I have to believe that you guys all have amazing events in the works. Please just remember to put them on the events platform. I dropped the link on the Google Plus page. But we talked a little bit about how being part of the global community and the global campaign can make you feel like your event was really a success, and posting it on the events page is an easy way to do that. It connects you into the global campaign and makes it easier for people to come. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
So we have another question from Harry. What can we actually send out? Lucy, you want to tell folks a little bit about the gear store?
Yes. So our gear store is currently in transition. We're changing the way we do gear a bit this year, and it's just still coming together, so don't hold me to this 100%. Last year, we were able to give out t-shirts and tablecloths and stickers. This year, we're going to be offering a slightly different package with lanyards and stickers. And the gear store isn't open yet, but if you go to the WebMaker, the Maker Party website, I've dropped that link in the Google Plus page, and sign up for the listserv. The second our gear store is up and running, we're going to send out a big email, and you'll be able to apply for gear. The only thing you need to be able to apply for gear for your Maker Party is to be registered on the events page. So it actually ties into my previous point. Put yourself on the events page, and then the second the gear store is up and running, you can request gear, and we'll send it out to you to help make your Maker Party even better.
Perfect. So let me do one more refresh and see if we have any new questions. Otherwise, I will thank Doug and Lucy again for joining me so I didn't have to talk to myself. It's really nice to have you guys. I appreciate the support. Thank you all for watching and asking questions. Again, we're all over the web, so if you feel stuck, if you need help, if you want to share what you're doing, please, please, please use the WebMaker list, tweet using Maker Party or the Teach the Web hashtag, post stuff. Share it with us. We're really, really excited that you all are participating, and we are looking forward to helping you in whatever way we can. So thanks, everybody, for joining.
And we haven't just
say bye, Doug?
Yes, I'll say goodbye. I was just going to say we haven't put our Twitter handles on here for no reason. You can send messages to @EpilepticRabbit, to @Lucy E. Harris and to @DAJ Belshaw, and we will do our best to reply to them. Cheers, everybody.